Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unfulfilled podcast. I'm your host, Camille. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Before we dive in with our amazing guest, Erica, please take one moment to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening if you're not already. It'll give you access to episodes every week when they come out and also means so much to me in supporting the Unfulfilled community. Again, thank you so much for showing up. Today, I'm joined with Erica Carrico, Soul Business Success Coach. She is an award-winning seven-figure CEO and recognized by Forbes and the New York Times. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. I cannot wait to do this combo with you.
Likewise. So I would love for you to start off by sharing your path and how you found what you're passionate about.
Yeah, well, my path is a little long, so I'll give you the shortened version. I was always one of those people or kids or whatever. I didn't think that I was going to have a traditional life. I didn't want a traditional life. I wanted to do things differently. I just couldn't buy into the idea that, we were here to like slave away in jobs for little amounts of money and do things that we didn't want to do. And I knew that no matter what I did in my life, I wanted to love what I do. And I knew that I was here to make a difference in the world in some way, shape, or form. And so it took me a long time to really land on starting my own business. I ended up traveling after I graduated from college and just got the travel bug and really fell in love with that whole side of life. And I landed in corporate. I think I was probably 26 or 27. And I kind of had this like crisis of I have to at least I have to get my life together here. Like my friends are all climbing the corporate ladder. They are getting married. They're having babies. And I was just still out there kind of having fun, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, bouncing from job to job, country to country, just, not really settling into anything. So I landed in corporate and actually moved to Australia, and I was in corporate recruitment. And I kind of figured, well, if I can't figure out what I want to do for a living, I'm going to help other people figure that out. And so I became a career coach for a while within the corporate space. And I did that for a really long time until, burnout hit and the economy crashed. This was like 2009. And I decided that I was just going to leave Australia, and I spent another year backpacking through third world countries. And on that trip, I did a lot of volunteering and really realized that I was here to make a difference, and I wasn't here to slave away in a corporate career and building someone else's dream. And essentially it just felt like a prison to me. And so I knew that I would never go back to corporate again. Long story short, I ended up becoming the executive director of a not-for-profit organization for a few years, and then was diagnosed with cancer. And that was when I was 36. And I think, cancer for me was big awakening, and I realized that I had my own medicine and my own gifts to share with the world. And I had really fallen into society's trap of you have to have a stable income, you have to have a job, you have to be, contributing to the family in some way, shape, or form. My marriage was falling apart at the time. I was so unhappy. And yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I think through that experience, it was like, I don't know if I'm going to live, and I'm not sure what the rest of my life will look like, but I kind of made this deal with God where if I do live through this, not only am I going to let go of everything in my life that is not serving me, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life being of service. And I started my business when I was still recovering from cancer, and I was breastfeeding a baby, and I had a toddler, and trying to leave my marriage at the same time. And yeah, here I am 8 years later with a multi-million-dollar company impacting thousands of women around the world. And I couldn't ask for anything better. It's just been an incredible journey.
That is truly so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Your path is just so beautiful and incredible and inspiring. And I don't even know where to start into asking you to dive in. But finding the courage to leave corporate and start your own company, it takes
Yeah.
a lot of guts. It's a big risk financially and personally. Like you put so much on the line. If someone does feel stuck in their corporate job, doesn't want to be a slave to the corporate world, stuck behind a desk, where would you even encourage them to start? Where do they even begin?
Yeah, this is the space I started my business in. So I actually started as a life purpose coach, and I helped hundreds of women to leave their corporate careers and start a business that was fully aligned with their purpose. And I think it really starts from finding guidance or working with somebody to help you through the process if you don't know what that process is going to look like. But I think creating an awareness and really getting to know yourself, figuring out what it is that you really love to do, figuring out what it is that you're naturally really good at, and then how can you combine those two and create value in the world in some way, shape, or form. And most of the time, it took me about a year of working my business while I was also in my full-time job. And I was also a mom, so it can actually be done. But yeah, giving yourself a year to get your business to the point where it's consistent, it's predictable, it's sustainable. And then there's different ways that women leave corporate, but that tends to be the one that works the best, because then you're not just quitting your job and diving into a business, which can feel really scary. And, then you're like, I have to get clients now. I have to get money coming in now. And it brings this sense of like neediness, and you're coming from a place of lack rather than a place of already feeling supported by your business and safe to let that corporate income go. But yeah, I think what I've found after working with thousands of women at this point is the perfect business for someone to start is really a combination of what they're naturally good at, what they really love to do, and how can they combine those two things to then create value in the world.
I have two thoughts that I want to dive into. I love that you acknowledged this idea that it's important to have it as a side hustle for a little bit,
Yeah.
not jump from black to white, not make such a drastic change without actually building that foundation first. I think that's a big misconception when we see people leave corporate and all of a sudden dive into their business. I think there's a lot behind the scenes we're not acknowledging and appreciating the fact that they've been consistently growing this on the side, maybe for even longer than a year, like maybe years, and finally they've built it to a place where they're ready to make that a full-time thing. So I do think that is important to acknowledge. It's okay to have it on the side and do both for a while.
It actually works better, honestly, because I have a program and hundreds of women have gone through this program as well. And I've seen it time and time again when a woman quits her job, and this maybe goes for men too. I just say women because I only work with women. But when someone comes into our program and they're like, I have quit my job, I have jumped ship, I'm starting my business, I'm all in, and I need to be earning money now. I watch them panic for a couple of months, and then they're like, Erica, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm freaking out. And I literally say to them, go get a job. Like, honestly, go get a part-time job. Go do something that is not going to take your time and energy, something that you enjoy. Like I always said, if my business got to the point where it couldn't sustain me, I would go work at a coffee shop, or I would go work at a horse barn, like something that I love doing that can bring some income in so I'm not panicking. But it's actually not great to build a business from a place of panic and scarcity and lack. So I definitely don't recommend people do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really great advice. And I can personally relate to that because this podcast is my side business currently. It's not my primary form of income, but it's something I'm doing on the side of my 9 to 5. So I am in that like beautiful, difficult in between phase where I am doing both. And you're right in the sense that it does take the urgency out of it because I'm not doing this for income. I'm doing it because I love it and I'm doing it to improve in the craft. And it's because I'm passionate about it. And I think that if I did take away the primary form of income and then I had that fire and urgency with the podcast, I think it would take away the excitement and passion because it would just become like this need to make money and it would strictly be like business and work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I personally think that takes the whole point of it away if someone is doing that. I mean, that's why my programs are called like Awaken Your Purpose and Soul Business Accelerator, because I don't believe in building a business just for the sake of building a business. I think it has to be attached to something deeper.
Yeah. So let's talk about this idea of passion. I heard recently this one business person on a different podcast say this idea that you shouldn't follow your passion, you should follow what you're good at and pursue that. I think I had a bit of trouble with this because similar to you and what you were sharing in the beginning, I always saw myself doing something I'm passionate about and making that my primary means of success as well. So what are your thoughts on this idea that you shouldn't just chase passion and how can we pursue both our passion and what we're good at?
Yeah, well, that's how I define life purpose. I mean, obviously, purpose has a lot of different layers, and there's a lot of different ways that we can express our purpose out into the world. But through the 12 years of career coaching that I did, what the biggest piece that was missing was passion. Like a lot of those people were really good at what they did, but they hated their life and they were earning good money. And I watched them get sick and I was the same and I got cancer. I don't believe that we're here to just do what we're good at. There was a lot of years where I was really creating the process of getting clear on what your life purpose is and what does that look like and how can you align that with a business. And the perfect combination is, yes, something that you're good at, of course, because then that's how you're going to excel at it, right? But you have to love it at the same time. Like it has to be a combination of what you love. Otherwise, people get burned out. They want to quit. I see that in my business course all the time. If they don't love what they're doing, it's not going to stick. It's just not. It's not going to last.
Yeah, I agree. I very much have realized recently that life is so much more than, making money. And I don't really define success by that at all. I think there's a certain amount of income that contributes to our happiness and success, but I don't believe that's what we should be chasing primarily in life. What does success and fulfillment look like to you?
That's a really good question. I would say early on when I started my business, honestly, success was about money. I had never had money in my whole life. At the time, I was reliant on my husband. And when your marriage is failing and you're trying to get out, that is not a good place to be financially. So for me, at that time, the success was like, can I just get my business to where it's earning 10 or 12,000 a month so that I can leave my marriage, support my kids. And when I got there, I felt successful. However, the goalpost is always moving, right? And I think next for me, success was a multi six-figure business. And then success became the $1 million, seven-figure business. And then once I had a couple of years of, $1 million business behind my belt, that did not feel successful anymore. Success was really wanting to dial back and get my time back and profitability and the ability to be able to do what I want in my life when I want, right? So being able to travel with my kids, being able to stop work at 3:30 when they get off school so that the rest of my night is with them, being able to hire in my home so that I can spend my time with my kids, not cleaning my house or cooking dinner or whatever. So success has really changed for me over the years. And I think right now it's really important for me to have the income that I want to have so that I can have the life that I want, right? Like money doesn't buy happiness, but it absolutely buys opportunity. But for me, non-negotiable is having the time that I want in my life to do what I want to do with my kids and to be able to be there for them.
I couldn't agree more. Time is that one priceless thing in life that we can't get back. And
Yeah.
it just makes you realize how short life is. You define financial freedom in a really beautiful way in your content. Can you dive into what financial freedom looks like to you?
Yeah. So I've asked a lot of people, what does financial freedom mean to you? What number do you have to have in the bank? Or what number do you need to be making every single month? And a lot of times people will say, well, I need to have $1 million in the bank, or I need to be earning 20,000 a month or whatever. And at the end of the day, that's not financial freedom, right? That's becoming a slave to a number.
Mhm.
And let's say you hit that mark, right? Like, let's say you have $1 million in the bank and you're earning 20,000 a month. What are you going to do if it just disappears? What if your business stops working? Or what if that money just disappears because banks have definitely dissolved and then money has gone away? Like we've seen it happen recently. Then what? So for me, financial freedom is a skill set. It's a skill set of always knowing how to create income and money for yourself when you need it. And that is something that I have learned. And that is something that I teach inside my program. And it's like not anything that you can ever unlearn. Once you know how to create income for yourself, you can't unlearn it. And it's a skill set you'll have forever. I know that if I lost everything, as horrible as it would be, I know exactly how to build it back. And I know I would be okay because I always know how to earn income for myself.
Yeah, I love that. That's a perfect definition. That's exactly what I was going for.
Okay, great.
So let's dive into some of the hows for any
Yeah,
listener who's like, okay, how do I do this? So
sure.
back to the passion piece, because what you speak a lot of is, okay, build a business that you're passionate about, right?
Yeah,
So let's say there's someone who's in a corporate job and honestly has no idea what they're even passionate about. And it sounds like you were
yeah,
there at one point in your life and you, in a beautiful way, took what you were struggling with to help others and to turn it
yeah.
into this business. So, what is your advice for someone who doesn't know what they're passionate about to start to get curious and figure it out?
A lot of us forget, right? We just become so detached from ourselves. And I think we all start out with this childhood wonder. And in my life purpose course, the very first thing I have them do is just start creating a list of 30 things that you really love to do
Mm,
and make yourself get to 30. And most people get stuck around 5 to 8. They're like, I don't think I have anything else. And we make them dig deeper, go back to your childhood. What did you love to do as a child? How did you spend your time? Really starting to allow themselves to let go of a lot of the conditioning and the adult responsibilities and just going back to remembering what it felt like to be free. And a lot of times it's in those spaces that we can figure that out. But it's definitely going backwards and inwards. It's a journey for sure. And I think it usually takes me about 3 weeks to get people to really have the capacity to tune back into their heart. And especially, those of us that are just, I was very much like, couldn't even really remember my childhood in all honesty. So there's some letting go and some shedding, and it's a practice for sure.
And it's so hard to tune out and unlearn all of the things that we've learned in society,
Yeah.
And like you just said, we've almost blocked off or prevented ourselves from remembering a lot of our childhood because we're just focused on who we should be in
Yeah.
society, rather than focusing on who we are at our core. And I love that you acknowledge that it does take some deep inner work and reflection. It's not like you wake up one day and realize, like, oh, this is what I'm passionate and meant to do. It's a process. And I think in that process, at least what I've experienced, it's trial and error, right? Like trying different things and learning maybe what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's only you're so right. There's only so much we can think our way through. That's another thing I do say is go get active in your life. Stop saying no and say yes to different things. Do something for yourself at least once a week that you have not done for years and years, and that's how people start to slowly bring that back into their lives as well.
So if someone is experiencing self-doubt or anxiety, if they are looking to take a risk or grow in something that they're passionate about, what advice would you have to kind of battle this self-doubt and anxiety that we all feel at times?
Yeah, that's, I think, the biggest thing that I hear from people is definitely the self-doubt. Can I do this?
Mhm.
Will this work for me? There's already so many people out there doing it. Why would they come to me over all these people? Right.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
then
gosh. Are you in my head?
I know exactly. Where is there even space for me out in this world? Yeah. And then the anxiety. I'm definitely a highly anxious person, so that's been something that I've always battled along the way. I think one, it tells you that you're on the right track. Yeah.
Mhm.
Two, the self doubt is it's just we're biologically designed to feel that way. Like fear and self doubt come from we've not done this before. We're doing something new. So we don't know if we can do it. Well, of course we don't know we can do it. We've never done it before. It would be weird if you didn't feel the self doubt. That's why it's just so important. If you want to start a business, find a mentor. Like, don't try and do it on your own. Find someone who has been there, who's done it, who's teaching you how to do it. Like, you don't not know how to swim and jump in a pool. You'll
Mhm.
drown, right? I think it's the same thing when you're starting a business or you're looking to change directions. Like, hire someone to help you so that you're not
Mhm.
just going to sink when you jump. And yeah, and then there's just so many ways to move through it. But I would not have been able to do it on my own. Like, I've always had coaches, mentors, business coaches, therapists, working through a lot of the emotional pieces, because so much of this journey is personal development and self development. It's not just starting a business. There's so much that goes along with it on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. So, on top of starting your own business, you have gone through so much in recent years. And in overcoming all these challenges and obstacles and starting your own business and stepping outside of society's mold and the corporate ladder and what have you, how have your relationships and how has your life changed personally?
Wow. I would say a lot of my relationships haven't evolved. I would say a lot of my relationships ended. A lot of them ended. I left my marriage. As soon as I started my business, I say that the first year of building a business is like 10 years of therapy. And your business is only going to grow in the extent that you're willing to grow yourself, right? And so I was already unhappy in my marriage, and here I start this business, and I'm just going this way and he's going this way. And it's like,
Yeah.
that was not a match anymore. We had nothing in common. And I just really outgrew that so quickly. So I did leave my marriage. And then through that also, I got sober. I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped, I really took this different path. And so a lot of my relationships were around happy hour and going skiing, and then we'd have drinks afterwards, and or taking girls trips that were revolving around like champagne and doing fun things. And so I noticed when I really started growing my business, I stopped drinking. I started really focusing on my own personal development. My inner world and my circle became very small and very close knit. And a lot of these people just didn't understand the path that I was on, and they fell away. And
Mhm.
that was really hard for me. I was alone for a lot of years. And I kind of came to this point in this realization as I started letting people in again. I would say my circle now is very small, maybe 5, 8 people, and they're all on a growth path. Most of them also are sober. They're creating something, they're putting something out into the world. So I've really had to build new friendships who are supportive of where I want my life to go and to be. And a lot of the people I'll still keep in touch with here and there, but we're just not as close. There's
Mhm.
just not a lot in common there. And I think people ask me all the time, how do you deal with family relationships? Because when people see you have success, there's a lot of jealousy that is there. They see you start to earn money that your family has never earned before. What I've done is I've just found what I talk about with my family and what I don't. Like my family are so important to me and those relationships are so important to me. So when I'm with them, we don't talk about my business if they don't want to talk about it. I'll just be, in their space, in their world with them. And if they have questions and they want to open that dialogue, then I do. But if they don't, it's not something that I bring up. So I think it's really learning how to navigate what relationships are important to you, how those can look as you continue to grow, and if they possibly don't. And then also reevaluating which ones are you wanting to keep in your life and which ones were just there for a certain time and you're okay to let them go.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know a lot of people definitely can resonate with that. I personally could not resonate more, especially when you said the first year of starting your business is like 10 years of therapy. It is so true. Like
Yeah.
starting anything and going against the mold in any way and doing something to up level that maybe a lot of the people in your surroundings or from your past don't understand and might not support is such a transformation. But one big mindset shift that I've continued to remind myself of recently, people that I look up to have constantly reminded me of, if you are doing something that's different than everyone around you, and if you're evolving out of these friendships, or if the people around you maybe aren't supporting you, that means you're on the right path. And so
Yeah.
anytime it's like difficult or it feels uncomfortable because those friendships or relationships that you used to love and appreciate and value no longer serve you, I think it just means that you are on the path of growth and success. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think whatever it might look like, whether it be starting a business or just like on this growth journey or cutting out alcohol, whatever it is, if your relationships and friendships are evolving, I think immediately it feels uncomfortable, but I think ultimately it's for the best because you're growing out of these relationships and moving away to create space for the ones who are going to support you and bring out the bring out your highest self and want you to shine.
Absolutely. There's this old saying, it's been around forever, like you are the five people who are closest to you. And
Mhm.
it is so true. If you look at the five people you're closest with, that is your life and that will be your
Mhm.
life until you decide that you want to create a new reality and you have to really step outside of that comfort zone. And it doesn't mean that those friendships can't exist anymore, but it does mean that if you want to create a new reality for yourself, if you want to live a life differently than what you're living now, it's really important to surround yourself with people who are also living that dream of yours.
Absolutely. So, you had a journey to bring your business to where it is now. You said that you started as a side hustle and
Mhm.
it's taken years for it to get here. For
Mhm.
someone who is on the journey of, let's say, starting their own business or just growing anything, whatever journey they might be on, if they're not seeing the results yet that they hope to see from all the work they're putting in, maybe they're approaching that feeling of burnout or like, am I ever going to get there? Why is it so important for them not to quit? And what advice would you have for them?
Well, my first advice is hire somebody, hire a business mentor or hire someone in that space that can help you, right? Like if you're trying to get a podcast going and you're struggling, hire a podcast coach or hire someone who can help get that out. If you're starting a business and you're struggling, hire a business coach, right? I think that's honestly one of the most important pieces of advice, just because when you're younger and you're wanting to learn something, you take a course or you go to school or you take lessons or whatever. But there's this thing about building a business where people are like, I'm just going to do it on my own. And
Mhm.
I've never understood that mentality. I've never had that mentality. But if it's not working, 99% of the time when people come to me and they're like, I've been trying to build this thing for a year or 2 years or 3 years and it's not working, it's because they don't have the right guidance and the right support. And I think once people step into that, the game changes.
But also, you do have to give it time.
You do have to give it time, yes, but I think it shouldn't take a lot of time. I guess it depends on what space you're in. I primarily work with service-based entrepreneurs, but I
Mhm.
can get someone to where they're earning consistent 5,000, 8,000 a month between 6 and 8 months. Sooner if they already have a business. I don't think it has to take a lot of time. I earned in my first year of business 22,000, right? So that was the
Mhm.
first year. And then I was able to quit my job because by the end of that, I think I had consistent 5,000 a month coming in. So I quit my job and then I had a six-figure year my second year. So it really doesn't need to take long. Like if it's taking 2 to 3 years, then I think something needs to shift, right? Like people aren't understanding what you're putting out there. You're not getting in front of enough people. You're not getting in front of the right people. They may not understand what you're trying to sell. A lot of people talk about what they're offering in the wrong way, or they feel salesy and they don't talk about it at all. And that's a
Mm.
problem, right? So there's a lot of things that people do why it's not working. It shouldn't take 2 to 3 years.
That's great advice. So,
Yeah,
so it's
troubleshoot.
so maybe like alter what you're doing. So don't
Yeah,
quit and give up
yes.
on your dreams, but
Do
reach
something
out for help.
different.
Yeah. And
Reach
I
out for
think
help, do something different.
also it is really important to invest in your knowledge and your education,
Hmm.
especially if it's a new space. I did that for the podcast. I've taken multiple courses to, yes, I've been growing
Yeah.
this thing on my own, but I did it
Yep.
with the help of learning from people who've done it themselves because they know best. And I do think you
Well,
learn from experience, but that experience should be guided by successful people.
yes, that is actually like that's actually one of the rules of success. Is successful people do not reinvent the wheel. They
Mhm.
find somebody who has created a process that works and they take it, make it their own and implement it and integrate it into their own project or business or whatever it is. So that is actually a component of success.
Amazing. Final question for you, Erica. How does someone know if their work is healing them or hurting them?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that is a great question. I think you feel it in your body. I think you just feel it, right? Like when the work that you're doing is hurting you, it's you feel the dread, you feel the sadness, you feel it in your body, right? Like I just remember feeling it in my cells. I put my feet on the ground every day when I was in corporate and I'd be like, I don't know how I can do another day. I felt it so deeply in my body. And it's just so different when you're doing work that heals you. Like it doesn't feel like work. I could do this all day, every day if I wanted to. Of course, I experience stress. Building a business is stressful, and there are times where you're afraid also, but it's a different kind. You still know that this is why you're here. And when it's attached to a deeper purpose and a deeper knowing and a higher calling and almost like a mission here on earth, it just feels very different. You just don't have the desire to ever stop.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. You have no resistance and it doesn't even feel like work. I love that. What a beautiful place to be. Thank you so much for sharing your path, sharing your story, Erica, and inspiring so many people today, myself included, top of the list probably. Where
Oh,
can
thank
everyone
you.
find you if they want more of you? Because I'm sure they do.
Absolutely. We are on Instagram under Erica Lynn Carrico. Of course, my website has all of my free resources and all of that. And that's just erica.com. And then we actually just started a school group, which I'm really excited about. I don't know if you're on school at all, but I'm doing a lot of like free live trainings in there every week. And it's called Soul Business Collective is the name of our group there.
Amazing. Erica, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.